Hey ladies and gentlemen, this is Javier with The Real Javier Novoa, a channel, a platform, and a modality where we apply the philosophy of interiorism to rapid lifestyle transformation. And today I have for you, ladies and gentlemen, for all of you, a wake-up call. That's right, this is going to be sort of a negative video, at least in the beginning. You'll want to watch it all the way through because I am going to give you the alternative and the shift in paradigm, which is basically the only way to get out of this. But first, I'm here to wake you up, especially some of you young people, especially those who think they're on the fast track to success. This is going to be some life advice from your Uncle Jay, from your Uncle Javier, and I'm going to go into some key points that you probably know, having lived in this materialistic reality, but it hasn't been at the forefront of your consciousness. And I've got to address all groups of people. And of course, the first group of people are those who are just comfortable in their ways. And I wouldn't call this group of people stupid. In fact, I would call this group of people the smartest of the three within the realm of materialism, within the realm of seeing everything just as it appears to us. And I wouldn't even call it materialism. In fact, the modern understanding of most people, from the least educated to the most educated, this is the most surprising thing. Well, not surprising if you consider what we're going to talk about, but the main point of view is it's not even enlightened materialism, because true materialism would be consistent and it would consider all of the empirical data that was provided by science. In fact, you could call me a materialist, depending on your definition of matter, in that I follow the empirical science and I look at the science and I draw my conclusions not only from the science itself, but from the philosophy surrounding the science. And we can get into that later. It's very necessary to live actually a good life. But the majority of people, I don't care if they're scientists, they live in this sort of unenlightened materialism, which means I only consider what I can see right now in front of my face, and I don't penetrate any more deeply into it unless I have to for my job. And ladies and gentlemen, this unenlightened materialism is a symptom of the general direction of our society. It's been taken in that direction on purpose, by the way, by the prison grid. And it is this word that I'm going to write here. I'm going to be using some very simple props in this video to drive home the points. Specialization. Note that word well. With the advent of the Industrial Revolution, more people needed to be specialized in order to perform more intricate tasks. But what happened was the education system went from being a system that educated the whole person, which gave him a liberal education, liberale, which means freedom from the prison grid. Keep that in mind. To a system that simply trained a person to do one thing, and usually to do one thing very well, and that's it. And ladies and gentlemen, I work in the pharmaceutical industry, and I can tell you unequivocally, some of the dumbest people I know, some of the stupidest people I know are doctors and pharmacists. It's true. They have doctorates in one discipline, but then they're completely ignorant about anything else. And they're complete materialists. And while they apply critical thinking skills to a very small subset of work activities, of profit-based activities, they're not able to use their critical thinking for anything else. And you can tell a lot about a person by seeing his or her tastes. Their taste in music and arts is not refined at all. It's just the filth pop culture that we see. Their taste in aesthetics. It's like, really, they are the most limited people that I see are some of the most educated people I see. It's because of this specialization. So the bottom group, which is the group of people that just doesn't give a damn and just lives in poverty and middle class, and I guess are just happy with that, that's actually smarter if you're living as an unenlightened materialist. But these people are basically living in the modality of the world happening to them. And for the purposes of this video, we're going to use this quadrant, and we're going to come back to it. And it's been enunciated by many spiritual teachers. There is to me, which is on the very bottom, by me, as me, and then, no, through me, as me. There are basically 4 spiritual modes in which everyone lives. And anyone can be on any modes depending on the time of day, but most of us have one in which we tend to in the majority of the time. And there's, of course, to me. And that's basically where the bottom of society is. It's also where a lot of middle class people have settled into. And that is basically, I'm a victim and the world is happening to me. It's a state of mind, ladies and gentlemen, and it's a victim mentality, and it's a mentality where I fight, but I lose most of the time, and I complain about it. There's really nothing I can do to succeed. Some people mature, and they get to this by me. And by me is what most of the self-help literature is on. It's what most goal setting is in. It's what most people who get to university and pursue advanced degrees are in. And it's what the prison grid likes you to be in. Because if you're in just a little bit of by me, which means I can affect some change if I work very hard and struggle very hard, but there are limitations. And this video is basically going to serve to basically shatter the hopes and dreams of those who are in by me. It sounds a little bit cruel, but I'm doing this so I can wake you up and get you to the next level. And then, of course, there's where we hope we are, and we're trying to get there. It is through me. Now, through me is where we start to discover the deeper laws of the universe. It's where we get out of this materialism. It's where we realize that there are spiritual laws that underlie the material laws, and by which we can leverage the material, because we learn that the material is only a reflection, and so therefore we're now working with energy which is flowing through me. It's now bigger than me, and rather than trying to affect change, I am allowing the change. And this is where a lot of this channel comes in zone. It's where we apply a lot of the processes and so on and so forth to get to the finish line. But this is not the final level. And where we're all attempting to get to, and we're all getting better at this is where you get to Master Manifester territory. There is as me. That's when we actually see the oneness, and this is the, shall we say, apotheosis of my philosophy of interiorism. It's realizing that there's really no one else, that we are all the one. It's non-duality, and therefore things just happen as me, and I need not even lift a finger to apply processes. But it's a very fine line between thinking that you're in as me while you're actually in to me, and you're just becoming passive, or shall we say apathetic. And we have to straddle that line, and we have to practice ourselves into this state of execution of as me, where everything's happening as me. But that's for a different video. In fact, we're going to touch on it in this video. But for those of you who are working in by me, ladies and gentlemen, and trying to get successful, and trying to finish some kind of course, and you have goals and so on and so forth, and for those who are below that and who are just trying to live in this mediocre junk, I don't care if you're a doctor, but you're just living in ignorance, you're not improving yourself at all, I have to give you some bad news, and that's what this first part of this video is going to be about. Forget about success. Why? Because in the probabilistic universe in which you're living, your life is governed by statistics. In fact, if we're simply living in the materialistic universe, unenlightened materialism, then you're governed by some pretty stark statistics. Well, you did win the lottery of being born. That's a huge lottery in itself. And many of you won the lottery of being in a liberal, democratic, free country, or at least semi-free society. That's a big win. But you still have to go up against, so to speak, the fact that it's very unlikely that you're going to get to the top of your endeavor. A lot of you want to get to the top of your fields or the top of your endeavors. Well, that's where all the money is. That's where all the success is. Let's even say that you want to get in the top 10%. You want to make $100,000 a year. Barring all else, which I'm going to touch on, your chances of getting there are 1 in 10, ladies and gentlemen, so about 10%. So most of you won't get there. So why would you work very hard at that? Because why would you work very hard at something for which the probabilities are against you? You're going to be very upset if you don't get there, which is most likely that you won't get there. So I'd just give up right now. And the other issue is, you think you're going to buy a house? I know some pharmacists, ladies and gentlemen, who are making close to $200,000 a year, ladies and gentlemen. They're on the top of our society financially. And they're saying they despair of buying a house because now housing prices for a decent house for someone of that stature going for about $500,000 to $600,000 a year. How the heck are you going to get a house? It's most likely that you're not going to be able to. And if you do, you're going to be in debt. It's not going to matter if you make $200,000 a year because you're going to be spending the majority of your money on rent and food and mortgage and so on and so forth. It's a pretty stark picture. It's due, of course, to the economic mismanagement of the prison grid. Some would say it's on purpose, but this is the reality that young people today, not so young people, even like myself, are having to face. It is the world of statistics, ladies and gentlemen. It's the world of probabilities. If you think you're going to get out there and get success, forget it, because most likely the majority of you watching aren't going to amount to anything. Now, it's the sad, pessimistic reality. Now, you want to start a business. Well, this is from Clarify Capital, and this is from October 23rd. They said 40% of businesses fail within the first 3 years, 49.9% within 5 years, 65.8% within 10 years, and 80% within 20 years. And there was another statistic saying that 90% of businesses just fail, startups just fail before they even get off the ground. Well, that's a fool's errand. Why would you do that? And we are being a little bit sarcastic here, but we want to drive these points home. Even if you get there, ladies and gentlemen, to the top, Peter Sage said, many people get to the top and then they jump off because they don't like the view. You think money is going to get you happiness. You think getting on top of this materialistic grid is going to get you happiness. I know you do. Even the majority of you who are watching this channel and watching spiritual material, you're trying to use it so that you can get to the top of that prison grid. It's like Alan Watts said, you're using this so that you can get one up on the universe. And I have a little secret. I am too. I'm trying to get one up on the universe, but we'll get into that later. But, ladies and gentlemen, just give it up. Even if you get there, Peter Drucker said it's lonely at the top. So you're aiming for a mirage. Of course, the antidote to that is knowing exactly what you want and why you want it and planning more for being there than getting there. But that's going to go into the tools that we're giving on this channel. So either you're not going to get there, or when you get there and get all that money, what are you going to spend it on? You're going to be trying to buy love. You're going to be trying to recuperate your health. And let's face it, if it takes as long as these people say it's going to take, you're going to be old by the time that you get there. You might not even be able to enjoy the money. So If you're simply in a materialistic mind. Oh, and one more thing. But see, materialists don't even look into this because they're not really materialists, ladies and gentlemen. They're simply complete and total... How can I even put this? For the momentists. Because if they were consistent materialists, they would see that the universe is so vast that there's not even justification for expecting the sun to rise tomorrow. It's like the great economists talk about. Why would you build a bridge that will last 100 years if you're only going to live 30? And why would we even plan for tomorrow when tomorrow depends on an agglomeration of cosmic events that we don't even understand? That's pure materialism. And if you're going to be in the materialistic modality, either an enlightened materialist or an unenlightened materialist, the best philosophy for you, the smartest one, is either a stoicism, which basically helps you to decrease your desires and be happy in the moment. By the way, it also helps for interiorism. Or it's going to be an Epicureanism, which basically says, try to figure out the least that I can be happy with and do that. And it all does tie into interiorism. Also, it would behoove you to adopt interiorism. And that's where we're going to go in the next segment of this. Why just give up now? What to do after you give up? Because, ladies and gentlemen, I just painted you a picture. It's factual in this film roll that's very bleak. And there's no way out of it really through materialism. Well, I'm going to give you the way out coming up here, so keep watching. So yeah, why this video? An old employer of mine who was not someone to be looked up to, but he did say this. He said, sometimes an MFer, and we're not going to use the exact word he used, but he said, sometimes an MFer needs a moment of clarity. And right now, I hope that myself, your Uncle Jay here, especially for young people, is serving to deliver you that moment of clarity. Even if you wanted to go in and work at it and work hard, it's stupid to do so because you're not going to be able to get there because the statistics are stacked up against you. Now, I said at the beginning of this video, this is a little bit disingenuous, a little bit sarcastic, but it's meant to drive home a point. Because the fact is that on this quadrant of as me, by me, to me, and so on and so forth, we're never only in one modality. We always shift. You might get a blow and you're back to me. But then through meditation, you can get back to through me. And then many of us through meditation and through contemplation can get to as me. But even within these modalities, we're not always in the same modality. We're most likely in two different modalities. So for example, you can be in to me and by me. So you could be in both of these, and you can be by me to me, which means that you're so pissed off at being a victim that you're going to go out and affect a consequence. And sometimes at worst, ladies and gentlemen, you could be in by me as me, or by me through me, which means that you're trying to do something, but you also pause to realize it's not really you doing it. So it's a lot more complicated. And of course, by me, that's why in by me you can actually achieve things. And some people can achieve a lot. But it's the rare person who can actually remain in by me and remain motivated. You could sometimes do it with a coach or a drill sergeant or something like that. It's just not something I want to do. It's not very pleasant. It is a way and you can do it. Sometimes in to me and victim mentality, some people can also affect a change, but they have to be in to me, by me, and that's where people seek revenge and so on and so forth. But again, you're just playing with the material. What I want you to do is totally drop the material and buy the pearl of great price, as Jesus called it. He sells everything he owns, and he buys a pearl of great price. And when he buys that pearl, then he has everything that he needs. That's my introduction to you to interiorism, ladies and gentlemen. Because even if you go into Stoicism, Stoicism is a door to interiorism. Even if you go into Epicureanism. Because why? Even Seneca talked about in his letters. I believe he wrote one letter to Lucilius in which he said, are you in a banquet that you don't want to be in? Just imagine yourself, and you can imagine yourself now in your house by the coastline, and so on and so forth. What interiorism does is realize and recognize that it's all within you anyway, and then you can do what Joel Goldsmith taught about. You can remove yourself from the laws of statistics. And you go into the laws of, the number one law is, I make the law. That's what Seth said. And that then will translate on the exterior, but the secret is you cannot focus on the exterior. Now, why would it translate onto the exterior? We're going to be going into the science of this and the physics of this, but just for now, a very simple placeholder. The exterior is either all that there is, or it corresponds with something else. Okay? So, we know it's not all there is because we can go into the interior and see something different. For example, you can close your eyes right now and imagine yourself in another room. So we know that there are two realities. Now, the exterior reality either corresponds with the inner reality, or it doesn't correspond with it. It's the exact opposite. Or it just corresponds in some things. If it totally doesn't correspond with it, and it's the opposite of the interior imagination, then it would still behoove you to go into the interior, because there's no point in going to the exterior, because it's not even fun. So it would still behoove you to go in. If it is corresponding with it, that means it's a reflection. But the reflection, and if it's just corresponding with it a little bit, that means that you might as well still go interior so that you can affect what you can control. So you see that the only option is to go into the interior. The only option is interiorism. We're going to dilate on this a lot more when we have more time in other videos, but it behooves you to go interior. And the exterior is a reflection. All of the great spiritual teachers have talked about this. And if you want to go into a deep dive, I encourage you to watch the videos that are coming up. But I would also read, for now, Reality Transurfing by Vadim Zeland, in which he very meticulously describes the allegory of the mirror. You don't change the reflection in the mirror, you change the face that's looking in the mirror. Also, Neville Goddard talks about this, Abraham Hicks. So it's a reflection, ladies and gentlemen. That being said, the focus needs to be on the interior, not on the exterior. And when you go into the interior, it's scientifically proven, if you read the works of Joe Dispenza, you'll see this, that you're tapping into a field. So there's a field that basically permeates everything and is inside and outside of everything. And it really is what you are. And this film consists of all possibilities. And what are all possibilities? All possibilities are like still film rolls. Why? Because there's a script, and then there's a content of that film roll that only moves when you focus on it, because focus is the animating factor. So, we have here design of film rolls. Now, if you're on a film roll that you don't like to be on, the very simplified version of this, we've described this in other videos, we're going to describe it more. You want to focus on a film roll you do want to be on, this film roll. And when you focus on that film roll lights up. And first it begins to animate in your focus, and then with a time lag, and the time lag all depends on the intensity and frequency of your focus, it will begin to unfold on the outer. So by doing that, we do as Joel Goldsmith said. We basically short circuit and avoid and shortcut this world of probabilities. And in that, you can be successful, and in fact, you are successful. The only condition is you have to live in it now as if you were already in it, even though your senses defy you. Because we've shown that the senses are not where the main game is at, either because it's only a reflection or because it has nothing to do with the interior and therefore you have no control over it anyway. Either way, it behooves you to put more focus on the interior. So what we're going to teach you to do on this channel is by, first of all, applying methodologies and then practicing yourself in it to get a mastery of interiorism. And I just want to go through some of the steps of mastery, ladies and gentlemen, because much has been made in recent years, especially from Malcolm Gladwell's books on mastery, and that mastery does, in many disciplines, take 10,000 hours. It's called the 10,000 hour rule. And that's true in disciplines on this film roll, and that's basically statistically based. But, being that interiorism and the true self of you, your true inner being, is outside of time, you can get to that mastery in no time, or at least in shorter time. We're going to show you how to do that. But I want to take from this great book, and I've mentioned it before, and it's called Early Retirement Extreme. And if you've not read it, I recommend that you read it, especially being that this channel is geared towards getting off the prison grid. This book is about getting off the prison grid. And he goes into 4 quadrants that we can compare to the quadrants that I've just written out here. And he goes into the steps and levels of mastery. What I want to do is I want to tell you the steps of mastery as it applies to interiorism, and I want to show you how this channel is going to help you get to mastery in less time than you thought possible. What's going to be the evidence of mastery? Well, the evidence of mastery is that you can hold your imagination upon anything that you want, regardless of exterior circumstances, and you will be able to manifest on the outer. But remember, that is not to be in front of your mind, because if it's in front of your mind, then you're simply using interiorism as another modality, and it will lose its efficacy. You'll still be able to manifest, and it'll still be a hell of a lot better than the by me, but you'll still sort of be in by me. I hope you understand me just a little bit. But so here's the list that the great author of Early Retirement Extreme gives to the steps. The first step is copying, second step is comparing, and third step is compiling. Now, what does that mean? When you first get into interiorism, whether it's by the way of law of attraction, law of assumption, whether it's by watching this channel, whether it's by reading books, the first thing you're doing is you're copying. You're simply listening to my words and taking notes. And what you're doing basically these 3 steps simultaneously. Then you're comparing. You're comparing all of the statements that I made. Where does it fit into this schema of knowledge? And what do the other channels say, and so on and so forth? Who has more weight, who has more credibility, and so on and so forth. You're basically studying. And then you're compiling. And this is basically looking for tips. So you imagine a beginning cook. He's going looking for recipes. He's talking to people about cooking. He's looking for tips. He's looking for the way to do it. You're still getting your sea legs about you in this modality. And that's perfectly okay. But you don't want to stay there, because what you're doing now, you're being beholden to a teacher, whether that's me or whether that's another channel. And remember, you are the teacher. There is no teacher. Where we want to get you to is where you can watch all of our videos and you can actually benefit from them, but you have your own inner guidance and you're following that. That's mastery. So at this point, they're just looking for tips. The second set of steps here is you're computing, you're coordinating, and then you're creating. So now you're starting to sort of write your own script here. What if I apply, in computing, you're saying, what if I applied this and this and this and sort of gave my own twist to it, then what would happen? And you start to make your own creations. Then you coordinate. You're like experimenting. You're saying, okay, what worked here, what didn't work there. And then finally, after you've done that for a little while, you're confident enough now, I'm going to make my own creation, and I'm going to do it according to the toolkit that I myself have generated. It might be the same as Javier is given, but I've basically adapted the tools, and where necessary, I've made my own tools, and now I'm a master. And that's where we want you to get to. And this also goes into this quadrant that we're going to make here. And he talks about an early retirement stream. First of all, there's an employee, right? Then there's a working man. Then there's the entrepreneur. And then there is the Renaissance man. So if you're just and there are people who are employees who are making $200,000 a year. If you're an employee, you're just depending on a salary. God forbid you get laid off from your job. You're going to be living under a bridge within 2 months, most Americans. You don't have savings. You depend on that job completely. Now, a working man is someone who has a trade or who's very good at what he or she does, but is not dependent on a job. He can work seasonal jobs, and he can work at different jobs, and he can take time off as he wishes. The employee is completely dependent upon the prison grid for a vacation, to take time off, and so on and so forth, to develop himself, education. That's where the prison grid wants you. The prison grid wants you to be an employee. And of course that employee is in the bottom 3 steps of this, the compiling, the copying, and so on and so forth. He's basically just taking the handouts that the prison grid gives him. The working man is a little bit step up. He's now starting to generate his own income. He has an emergency fund and so on and so forth. The entrepreneur is starting to be generative. That's in the through me modality. That's a symbolism of the through me modality. Basically now he's not doing the work, but rather the blueprints are coming through him to other people who can now help him to create something bigger. He can scale it, whether that's people or machines, and so on and so forth. But he is still dependent on one business or a few businesses, and he's dependent upon the market. The Renaissance man, he may still be an entrepreneur, but he has so many skills, and he's also learns to live for so cheaply because he doesn't worship money anymore, because he knows that all of the resources are coming to him, whether by money or by other means, and he's built his education, he's rounded himself in skills that now he's completely independent of the prison grid. He can clean a toilet if needs be, but also he can live the highest type of life because he's a Renaissance man. He's not a specialist, he's a generalist, and he has knowledge in many different disciplines, and that is a symbolism for as me, ladies and gentlemen, that this is all happening as me. So it behooves you to focus, ladies and gentlemen, on mastery of interiorism. When you master interiorism, when you realize it is you and all is happening through you and as you, and you're not dependent at all upon statistics, then you become free from this grid. You're where you want now, and of course, in the mirage, in the mirror image, you will surpass all of your peers, and you're not now looking at a 90% failure rate. You're looking at 100% must succeed rate, because it is law, ladies and gentlemen. All you have to do is revert to the interior. You have to take that flame into the interior. And I want us to get used to just getting into the silence, going into the silence, meditating 100 times a day. So, to that end and to that purpose, I want to just end this video by us meditating, going into the silence, going within and realizing that the real game, ladies and gentlemen, the real main event is within, and then we can go in there, create whatever it is we want to create. So I just want you to close your eyes. What I want you to do is I want you to just sense, what is it that is aware of all of the sensations, all of the sounds? What is awareness? Can I just sense that awareness? Can I be aware of awareness? Just sit with that non-dual awareness. Even if there's a feeling or an emotion in my body that what I would label as negative, it doesn't matter because I'm just aware of the awareness now. And I know that that's all just happening within that consciousness. So that consciousness is just completely free of the contents. That means I'm completely free. I can, from here, just go immediately anywhere I want. Do that. Imagine a place where you want to be right now. Go there. Experience all of the sensations and the sounds of that now. You are there now. For a moment, just focus on that you are at the place that you want to be right this second. It could be a beach, it could be a building, anywhere. It could be a forest. From here, you don't have to change beliefs or self-talk because that's going about it the harder way. You can just start generating any self-talk that you want to generate. I am completely financially independent. I am completely vibrant and healthy. And don't try to believe it, because that's by me. Just let it flow through you and know it. Now let's just get back to the room that we're in on this other dimension. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd encourage you to do this. This is true meditation. You can do it anytime you want. You don't even have to close your eyes. You can keep your eyes open. You can do it at work. I want you to start creating that interior kingdom, as Santa Teresa de Avila called it. And I want you to start living there more. That's not to say that you're living there all the day, all the time, to where people will put you in an asylum. But I want you to start living there more. And what you're going to realize is that you're going to have to be very sharp, because your reality is going to start taking on the tones of that, and you're going to start getting manifestations sooner. And by the way, that's a trap. That's why the Stoics always said, always reject the gift of fate. Because if life gives you what you want, then you're going to think, oh, this is heaven, and you're going to stop doing it. You're going to stop going to the interior, and then all of the laws of decay and probability and statistics are going to start coming in, and that's why people lose their fortunes and so on and so forth. No, what you do is you see the outer, you are grateful for it, you say, thank you, Father, as a sign of what I've done on within, and then you keep going within to that next desire. There will always be a next desire within you. We're going to teach you this and more, ladies and gentlemen, the videos coming up on the channel. So we hope you enjoyed this video. If you find value in the material, please subscribe to the channel. You're going to help us get the word out. You're going to be putting your towel in, so to speak, with a group of master manifestors who are on our way to changing the world. I am doing coaching calls, ladies and gentlemen. I will put my email in the description. Let's make more progress in days and weeks than many people make in months and years. Till very soon, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great weekend. I'll see you soon. This is the real Javier Novoa.